Backstage, I'm starting fights off everybody. I've ridiculed everyone on the roster. I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
Tonight, our first look at body cam video from the Miami Beach police the day they arrested MMA fighter Conor McGregor.
He doesn't have anything on him, right? No jewelry.
Conor McGregor, the fiery, larger-than-life fighter who stormed into the UFC octagon with jaw-dropping victories over some of the sport's most legendary opponents, now finds himself teetering on the edge of self-destruction, brought down not by rivals in the cage, but by his own relentless controversies. From the infamous moment when he hurled a dolly at a bus carrying fellow fighters, putting them in serious danger, to the shocking incident where he struck an elderly man in a Dublin bar, McGregor's actions have repeatedly crossed the line. He has also made headlines for making outrageous demands, including reportedly requesting a staggering $100 million to step into the White House for a fight, turning his personal brand into a volatile spectacle and a chaotic battlefield of his own creation. The question on everyone's mind is clear. What exactly went wrong? And why has this once untouchable UFC superstar fallen so spectacularly fast? To understand the depths of Conor McGregor's dramatic unraveling, we have to rewind to the very beginning, back to the days when he was a young, struggling plumber navigating the gritty streets of Dublin. At that time, he seemed destined to live a life buried in the grime of pipes, sweat, and the ordinary struggles of everyday labor. Yet, hidden beneath that ordinary exterior was a fire, a restless ambition that refused to be contained. When McGregor finally stepped into the UFC octagon, he did so with an unorthodox and almost chaotic fighting style that fused karate, taekwondo, boxing, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu into a single, unpredictable storm. His approach was as audacious as it was ferocious, captivating fans and intimidating opponents. The fighter's signature left kick sliced through the air like a razor-sharp blade, while his left punch struck with the speed and precision of lightning tearing across a clear sky. Beyond his physical prowess, it was McGregor's mindset, a relentless predator's mentality that truly set him apart. Every fight was a calculated assault, every move a testament to his unyielding drive. And as a result, he surged to the top of the UFC with astonishing speed, toppling legendary fighters one after another and cementing his reputation as one of the most daring and fearless competitors the sport has ever seen. The crowds went absolutely wild. They weren't just watching a fighter, they were witnessing the rise of a bold, defiant Conor McGregor, a rare force with the charisma and audacity to take on the entire world. Every time he stepped into the arena, the stands exploded with energy, buzzing with the thrill of witnessing history in the making.
Notorious Conor McGregor!
Fans chanted his nickname with reverence and excitement, the Notorious Conor. McGregor's fights didn't just entertain, they shattered pay-per-view records, skyrocketing from 800,000 buys at UFC 189 to a staggering 1.2 million at UFC 194. But he wasn't just selling tickets, he was selling a dream, a story of an unknown fighter, a man who once labored in humble jobs, now standing shoulder to shoulder with legends. The pinnacle of McGregor's meteoric rise came in 2015 at UFC 194 when he faced Jose Aldo, the undefeated featherweight champion who had dominated for nearly a decade. In the lead-up to the fight, McGregor turned the media circus into a full-blown psychological war, promising to knock Aldo out in the very first round, leaving fans and critics alike on the edge of their seats, waiting to see if the audacious Irishman could truly back up his bold words. The king of the world.
I'm the king of Dublin. I'm the world champion. You're the king of Dublin, yeah? You're looking at him.
In an absolutely astonishing twist, McGregor's audacious promise became reality. Just 13 seconds after the opening bell, his deadly left punch sent Jose Aldo crashing to the canvas. Las Vegas trembled, headlines erupted worldwide, and a new king was officially crowned. With the championship belt slung over his shoulder, McGregor stood like an untouchable warrior, a living embodiment of the Notorious himself. Fans went absolutely wild. Media outlets scrambled to cover every moment, and experts showered him with endless praise. But even in the midst of this roaring triumph, few noticed the tiny cracks beginning to form in McGregor's seemingly indestructible empire. What followed would mark the start of a dramatic unraveling, as the seeds of self-destruction quietly took root, hinting at the chaos yet to come. Fast forward to just days ago, on September 25th, 2025, Conor McGregor once again sent shockwaves through the MMA world with a statement as bold and reckless as his reputation. As the UFC planned a historic event on the White House grounds in June 2026, celebrating America's 250th independence anniversary, with the octagon set up on the South Lawn and the weigh-in staged at the Lincoln Memorial, McGregor boldly inserted himself into the negotiations, refusing to be just another fighter. True to his notorious style, he demanded attention, money, and control, showing once again that his hunger for spectacle and controversy was far from satisfied. He demanded an eye-popping $100 million in cash, plus 100 golden visas for himself, his family, and his friends. This outrageous move ignited a firestorm across social media, with fans and critics alike unleashing a mix of shock, disbelief, and ridicule. Comments range from, if you're taking $100 million of U.S. taxpayer money, you'd better be ready to fight everyone. 100 million plus another 100 million in golden visas for a one-off fight that adds zero value to the division? Come on. Why stop at 100 million? A billion maybe? Back in 2016, you could pull this off, but you've been done for years. Shift aside, laugh my ass off. Some argued this was classic McGregor, a master showman using a bold negotiation tactic, but many others saw it as pure arrogance, an audacious overstep that seemed aimed at challenging UFC President Dana White and the entire organization itself. It begged a serious question: would the UFC cave in to his extravagant demands, or would they finally push back?
You little slap hand. Boom!
Adding yet another dramatic chapter to the self-inflicted downfall of Ireland's notorious star. Once crowned king, McGregor now risked tarnishing his own legacy. The cracks in his empire had been forming for years, hidden beneath the dazzle of fame and public adoration. But they became undeniably clear on August 26, 2017, during the blockbuster boxing match against Floyd Mayweather at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And make no mistake, it wasn't just a fight, it was a spectacle, a turning point that revealed the limits of McGregor's invincibility, setting the stage for the unraveling of the larger-than-life fighter whose bravado sometimes seemed to outpace his judgment. It was nothing short of a cultural earthquake, a mega event that rocked the sports world, drawing a staggering 4.3 million pay-per-view buys and earning McGregor nearly $100 million in a single night. Overnight, he wasn't just a UFC fighter anymore. He had become a global superstar, a name spoken alongside icons like Ronaldo and Beyonce. But with that blinding spotlight came a harsh reality, one even McGregor couldn't escape. Why? Because his opponent that night was none other than Floyd Mayweather, the undefeated boxing legend with a pristine 49-0 record, a defensive genius who had never known defeat. And yet, true to form, McGregor stepped into the ring with that trademark swagger and a smug grin plastered across his face.
Disrespecting your president Vladimir Putin? Fake about that guy's saying fake respect as a okay, why you guys change your language? Okay,
In the lead up to the fight, he turned the media frenzy into a personal stage, donning lavish suits and relentlessly taunting Mayweather, calling him a coward, and boldly vowing to finish him in just a few rounds. It was McGregor at his most audacious, fearless and brash, ready to defy the odds and cement his status as the Notorious. Captivated by this media-fueled spectacle, the audience immediately placed their hopes in McGregor, dreaming of a historic upset, imagining the Irishman breaking all limits and rewriting history. But reality hit like a brutal slap to the fans' faces. In the early rounds, McGregor came out swinging with ferocity, unleashing a storm of passionate punches in an attempt to dominate and overwhelm his legendary opponent. Yet while he burned through his energy in a bid for showmanship, Mayweather stayed icy calm, retreating, observing, and patiently waiting for the perfect moment to strike. By the 10th round, McGregor's movements had slowed, his energy visibly drained, and the fight had shifted. Seizing the opportunity, Mayweather cornered him and unleashed a relentless barrage of precise strikes. The referee had no choice but to step in and stop the fight. In that moment, McGregor, once hailed as an unstoppable force in the octagon, fell, not to a devastating knockout, but to his own exhaustion. a harsh reminder that even the boldest bravado can meet its limits when energy and strategy collide. It was a devastating blow to McGregor's already towering ego. After that night against Mayweather, he seemed like a completely different man. No longer the gritty, determined kid grinding away in a cramped Dublin gym, he had transformed into a figure living a life of excess, cruising on million-dollar yachts, partying in Ibiza, draped in gold-embroidered suits, and raising glasses of proper number, 12 whiskey for the cameras. The warrior's fire that once defined him had been consumed by the blinding glare of wealth and fame. The discipline that had once been the backbone of his meteoric rise was now in fragments, scattered amidst a whirlwind of indulgence and spectacle. The real reckoning arrived in October 2018 at UFC 229. McGregor returned to the octagon with that signature arrogance, boldly labeling his opponent, Khabib Nurmagomedov, a coward and vowing to crush him in mere minutes. In the months leading up to the fight, he dialed his provocation tactics to unprecedented extremes, turning every press event, interview, and promo into a personal attack. But he didn't stop at trash talk. McGregor crossed the line, targeting not only Khabib, but also his family, his religion, and his Dagestani heritage, igniting a storm that would set the stage for one of the most explosive confrontations in UFC history. McGregor believed his sharp words and relentless trash talk would crush Khabib's spirit, just as he had unnerved Jose Aldo and Eddie Alvarez before their swift defeats.
Emotions after a loss like that, you know, it stings real bad, but this is the fight business. I will not shy away from it, and I will not make excuses for it. I will assess it and come back.
But he made a critical mistake, forgetting that Khabib Nurmagomedov was no ordinary opponent. He wasn't Aldo or Alvarez. He was a disciplined, relentless fighting machine with an unbreakable will. The moment the opening bell rang, Khabib took control, immediately overwhelming McGregor with relentless grappling that left the Irishman struggling to find his rhythm. By the second round, a sudden, precise punch from Khabib sent McGregor crashing to the mat, shocking the arena into stunned silence. Fans could hardly believe that the Notorious, who had seemed untouchable for so long, was being so completely dominated. But the nightmare didn't stop there. In the fourth round, trapped in Khabib's suffocating chokehold, McGregor had no choice but to tap out, bringing the fight to a definitive, humiliating close. The Notorious had been beaten, not by flashy technique or a lucky strike, but by sheer discipline, strategy, and an opponent who refused to be intimidated. In that fight, Khabib didn't just beat McGregor, he tore through his carefully constructed facade. He exposed the cracks in McGregor's training, highlighted the erosion of discipline, and revealed the inflated ego hiding beneath the bravado. The loss acted like a razor-sharp blade, slicing through the glossy veneer to expose a vulnerable, human side of McGregor to millions of stunned viewers. If the defeats to Mayweather and Khabib were deep fissures in the fortress of his empire, McGregor's actions outside the octagon were the flames that set it ablaze. The breaking point came in August 2019 at Dublin's Marble Arch pub, when McGregor struck a 50-year-old man in the face simply because the man refused to drink proper number 12, the whiskey brand McGregor so proudly endorsed. Video footage of the incident spread like wildfire, destroying the charismatic bad boy image he had spent years cultivating. The public no longer saw a clever, daring fighter. They saw an aggressive man attacking a defenseless person. McGregor has hit rock bottom, fans commented bitterly, lamenting that Ireland's former icon had become a national embarrassment. Yet this wasn't even the only example of his recklessness. Earlier at UFC 223, fueled by a bitter feud with Khabib Nurmagomedov, McGregor led a chaotic attack on a bus carrying UFC fighters at the Barclays Center in New York. In full view of dozens of cameras, he grabbed a metal dolly and hurled it at the bus windows, sending shards flying everywhere and injuring two fighters, including Michael Chiesa, who was forced to withdraw from the event due to facial cuts. McGregor's public outbursts were no longer thrilling spectacle. They were dangerous, destructive, and unmistakably self-sabotaging. In response, McGregor often flooded social media, angrily denouncing the media as liars and insisting on his innocence. But these public outbursts did little to restore his image. In fact, they only fueled growing disillusionment. He's no longer a legendary fighter, one MMA commentator said bluntly. Now he's just a name synonymous with trouble. The fallout went far beyond his reputation, dragging his once thriving business empire into the abyss. proper number. 12. The whiskey brand that had earned him hundreds of millions was sold for $600 million in 2021. Shockingly, after the deal, McGregor was completely excluded from its marketing campaigns. A clear signal that even those who once saw him as a guaranteed moneymaker wanted no part of his scandal-ridden name. Major sponsors, including Reebok and Bud Light, also distanced themselves, leaving McGregor's commercial empire in shambles. Once proud of his status as a global brand and money-making machine, he now stands like a fragile sandcastle, washed away by the tides of his own choices. Fragile, fleeting, and faded, Conor McGregor has become a stark symbol of a bitter paradox. The very audacity and bravado that once made him legendary also paved the way for his dramatic fall from grace. The path to glory is always paved with sweat, discipline, and relentless willpower. Yet the descent often begins with the very fame one fights so hard to achieve. As an unknown from Dublin, McGregor burned with ambition, training to absolute exhaustion and treating every fight, no matter how small, like a life or death battle. But once he had it all, wealth, fame, and worldwide adoration, he forgot the foundation that had carried him to the top. Success didn't destroy McGregor. The illusion that it would last forever did. His defeats to Mayweather and Khabib were more than just losses. They exposed a hard truth. McGregor was no longer the hungry, fearless warrior of his early days. He had become a man who believed that money, fame, and spectacle could bend the world to his will. His outrageous demand for $100 million to fight at the White House wasn't just a negotiation tactic, it was a bold declaration that reality itself should bow to his ego. And the irony, the more McGregor indulged in this illusion of power, the more he exposed his inner fragility. The deepest lesson here is clear. A person's greatest enemy isn't the opponent across the ring, it's the arrogance, recklessness, and lack of self-control within. You can defeat countless rivals in the octagon, but if your ego takes over, you'll destroy yourself from the inside out. Once Ireland's pride, McGregor now stands as a cautionary tale, a warning to all about the dangers of letting fame and ego rule your life. If you found this story shocking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the rise and fall of the world's most notorious stars.